Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 983. I'm your host, Mike Smith, and this is the show where I share tips, stories, and real-world tech experience from the trenches of supporting small businesses and home users. And before I get started, I'm wearing my Phillies hat and a Phillies shirt because today was the opening day of Major League Baseball. Yes, they played one game last night, I know, on Netflix, but I was watching the Phillies right up and before going live tonight, and they won their first game. And, go Phillies. As you know, I'm a huge Phillies fan. Sad that spring training's over. That last game was on Monday. That's my fight. This is my favorite time of the year with spring training. So now the regular season is upon us, and see what happens. Today I'm going to talk about a big shift that's coming to the technology world. The new National AI Legislative Framework was released by the White House, and I'm going to have a link to that. This is the first real blueprint for how the U.S. is planning to regulate artificial intelligence at the federal level. This is not political. This is all technical. And if you're thinking, great, more laws, more acronyms, more headaches, don't worry. I'm going to break it down in plain English, what's in this framework, what it could mean for tech that you use every day, and how you, as a small business or an MSP or just a regular user, can prepare now without panicking. So, grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and I'm going to dive in. So first, what did the White House just do? So what actually happened on March 20th, the White House released what they're calling a National AI Legislative Framework. This is not law yet. Think of it as a set of instructions to Congress. And here's how we want you to write AI laws for the whole country. So is this going to happen? Most likely. And we knew this was coming because we have to regulate AI. It can't just be allowed to just run wild. So the goal is to avoid a mess where every state has its own totally different AI rules. This makes sense. Instead, they're pushing for one unified federal approach so businesses don't have to juggle 50 different rules in a rule book. The framework lays out several big priorities. Things like child safety, consumer protection, national security, intellectual property, and making sure AI doesn't undermine democracy. It's only a few pages, but it sets the tone for how AI will be governed in the U.S. over the next decade. So now, why should we care? Because this will eventually affect the tools that we're already using. Microsoft 365 with Copilot, Google Workspace, chatbots on websites, AI features in your CRM, even the way your bank uses AI to detect fraud. I keep getting abused anytime I open up Adobe. It's trying to shove down my throat the AI add-in because they want another $5 a month. So you're seeing it. Your clients are using it. You're probably using it. I use AI when I can. So here it is. Now, the 7 big ideas. Let's unpack the core ideas of this framework without the legal jargon. Different summaries and legal analysis break it into several key objectives, but I'm going to group them into a handful of themes that actually matter. One national standard, not 50 different ones. The framework is clear. Congress should create a unified federal approach so AI rules are consistent across the country. That's good news for software vendors, MSPs like ourselves, and small businesses that operate in multiple states. Less guesswork, fewer conflicting rules. I got clients in Florida. I got clients in Pennsylvania. I got clients in Jersey. We do remote support for clients in Ohio. I got clients in North Carolina. So this is going to be good. At least we hope that they execute this properly, and it is. So use existing regulators instead of inventing a giant new AI agency. Instead of creating one massive AI super agency, the plan is to learn. Well, it's to lean on regulators that we already have, like the FTC for consumer protection, the FDA for healthcare, the SEC for finance, and so on. Those agencies would get more tools and authority to handle AI in their areas. What I pray is that the proper people will be running those agencies. Let's hope so. So if a healthcare company uses AI to diagnose patients, the healthcare regulators handle that. If a social media platform uses AI to target ads at kids, consumer protection and child safety regulators step in. That brings up the topic where Meta just lost in court the first of probably many lawsuits on their actions on what they did for marketing and manipulating kids on social media. So I'm not going to deviate from there because there was a big ruling yesterday. But definitely look into that. And will these things properly help with that? Let's see. We have to protect people from AI scams and deep fakes. You see it. Everybody's seeing it. One big focus is AI-powered fraud and impersonation. Deep fake voices that sound like your grandkids. Fake videos, scam calls that use cloned voices. All of that. The framework specifically calls out strengthening law enforcement tools to go after AI-enabled scams, especially those targeting seniors and vulnerable people. That is not an easy task. So we're likely to see new rules requiring clearer labeling of AI-generated content, stronger penalties for impersonation scams, and maybe even obligations on platforms to detect and stop some of this activity. Next, making companies responsible when AI causes harm. There's a lot of discussion in the policy world around developer liability. Who is responsible when AI systems cause damage? The framework leans toward making sure that companies that build and deploy powerful AI systems can't just shrug and say, it was the algorithm, not us. It sounds familiar. That doesn't mean every bug becomes a lawsuit, but it does mean more expectations for testing, documentation, and safeguards before AI tools are rolled out. This is another gap for potential failure because we're not seeing enough testing now and updates for our operating system and software. And, are they now going to start, are the developers now going to meet these standards unless we have strong penalties in place for when they break this? We got to force this to happen. Balancing innovation with safety and national security. The framework consistently comes back to two goals. Keep the U.S. competitive in AI, but also guard against national security threats like foreign adversaries using AI for cyber attacks, disinformation, or advanced hacking. Interesting about the disinformation. How are we going to stop all of the social media disinformation? This is, they lay it out where it sounds easy, but this is going to be a lot of work and it's going to be difficult to get all of this implemented. So expect a mix of incentives for innovation, like R&D funding and stricter controls around high-risk uses of AI. So how this touches everyday tech. Let's zoom in from the policy clouds down to the devices and services you actually touch every day. You might be thinking, I'm just running a small office with Microsoft 365, a couple of line of business apps, and maybe some AI tools like Copilot. Why should I care about federal AI frameworks? Well, here's where it gets real. Cloud and SaaS tools may change their defaults. As these rules solidify, companies like Microsoft, Google, and Salesforce will likely adjust default settings, logging, data retention, and transparency features around their AI tools. For example, you might see more prominent notices when AI features are in use, or easier ways to see what data is being used to train or personalize AI models, more admin controls for disabling or limiting AI features in certain departments. You're going to have to analyze and take a look at what your clients are doing now, what are you doing now, what the company you work for doing now, and then start to layer that into this where it might impact you. Documentation and audit trails will matter more. If your business is in a regulated industry, and this is where I fear this more than anything, healthcare, finance, legal, and education. Well, me, the healthcare and finance and legal. You can bet regulators will want clearer records of how AI is used in decision making. That could mean keeping logs of AI-generated outputs that influence decisions, being able to show what data went into certain models or prompts, having policies about when humans must review or override AI suggestions. This is something I'm always having this conversation with clients who think, wow, I could just use AI to solve that. And I had a client that did that where he used ChatGPT to solve a problem, and it was wrong. And it made it worse. And they had to reach out to us to resolve everything. So sometimes, you need that expert, which I've said shows ago before, if you're in the tech industry, you need that human to review this. Well, this is where documenting all of this is going to happen, and you can't just rely on AI for everything. You're going to have the human part. Take a look at this. Does it make sense? Do we want to implement that? Someone has to be doing that. Terms of service and contracts will quietly evolve. Expect the fine print to grow. Vendors will tweak their terms around liability, data usage, and compliance with the new federal standards to protect themselves from all this stuff that's coming down. We're going to be seeing that. And if you're an MSP like myself, or you manage IT for a small business, you want to pay attention to vendor announcements and possibly update your own client agreements and acceptable use policies to match. I'm going to say that again. You need to pay attention to all vendor announcements for what you are right now managing for clients, and possibly update your client agreement and acceptable use policies to match. That's going to be important because we want to protect ourselves for all this. So just keep that in mind. All right. What MSPs and small businesses should do now? Let's get practical. What can you do this week, this month, to get ahead of this without overreacting? I'm going to give you a simple checklist you can start from, that you can treat this like a first draft of your AI readiness plan. This is really why I'm doing this. Most organizations are using AI somewhere, even if they just don't realize it. Sit down and make a quick inventory. Are you using Microsoft Copilot, Google's AI in Workspace, or other assistant features? Any AI-based email security, spam filtering, or threat detection? So if you're using services out there, what are they using for AI in the help for that? Chatbots on your website. I think everybody's using that. AI-powered CRM features or document summarizers. Just listing this out gives you a baseline. You can't manage what you don't know. Create a simple AI use policy. Every client's going to want one. You're going to need one for yourself. You don't need a 40-page legal document. Start with 1 or 2 pages in plain language that covers what tools are approved, what type of data are never allowed to be passed into AI tools. This is where it gets important. For example, social security numbers, full card numbers, HIPAA data, confidential legal docs. You can't be submitting them into an AI tool. When employees must double check AI outputs before acting on them. There's got to be a guideline. This sort of policy lines up with the framework's emphasis on consumer protection, privacy, and responsible development without waiting for Congress to pass a law. Turn on logging for admin controls where available. Wherever you're using cloud platforms, look for activity logs that show when AI features are used, per user or per group controls to turn certain capabilities on or off, data retention, and export options for AI-generated content. I know this from auditing, and regulators love logs. Even if you're never audited, having them gives you more visibility and control. And I've had to send samples of logs where a couple clients of mine got audited because of what they're doing. And with me being able to produce some of those logs, they love that. And so that's important for everything you're doing, whether it's AI or not. Log. Okay. Educate your staff or clients. Most AI related risk isn't from the model itself. It's from how people use it. Run a short training for your team or clients. Make sure you talk to your clients about covering this in their training. Examples of AI-powered scams and deepfakes. How to spot AI-generated phishing or voice calls. What your internal rules are for using AI apps at work. Tie this directly to the framework's focus on protecting vulnerable populations from impersonation and fraud. Let's pause right there for a second. This is your opportunity to sell to your clients the options of putting these policies together. I'm already doing the cybersecurity awareness training for clients. Now you're going to have to sit with your client, work out all where they're going to be using the AI, where they're going to have policies, what are they going to say, and you're going to have to work with them, and then you're going to have to incorporate that into training for the employees. This is a lot. This will generate a lot of billable hours in work for anybody doing what we do. And I have a current client that has already started the discussion this week of exactly what this is, and that's why this became the show topic for tonight. So I am actually going to be going through all of this, and I needed to think about this, and lay it out. How are we going to approach it? What are we going to do? And that's why you got to get that inventory of what they're doing. Then you got to sit and get, okay, what are their goals? And what are we doing for the guideline for how we get from point A to point B while we keep everything safe and protect their information? So now we have to update the incident response plan. If you already have a cyber incident response plan, and everybody should, add a section for AI, questions to cover. What if an employee pastes sensitive data into an unapproved AI tool? What if a malicious AI-generated email slips through and someone interacts with it? Who decides when you need to notify customers or regulators in an AI-related incident? Think of the different compliance that's going to change as we go forward. HIPAA, FINRA, PCI, all these compliance rules are going to change. They have to incorporate AI. Here's another segment, the security corner. AI, quantum, and the future of encryption. I want to take a quick detour into something closely related to the security side of all of this. While the White House is building a framework for AI laws, companies like Google are working on making the underlying internet more secure against future threats, especially quantum computers. Google has been pushing what's called post-quantum cryptography. That's new types of encryption designed to resist attacks from quantum computers. They've already been testing quantum safe algorithms in Chrome and working on new Merkle tree certificates to keep HTTPS fast while adding this extra protection. So we've got two parallel tracks here: policy and law, making sure AI is used responsibly; technical security, making sure the infrastructure that powers AI and everything else stays secure even when quantum computing gets real. So now we're like, now we're taking off. So what does this mean for you? This means that over the next few years, you'll see browsers, VPNs, and other tools quietly upgrade their cryptography under the hood. Most users won't even notice this, but we will. IT folks and MSPs will need to keep firmware, OSs, and browsers up to date to benefit from these improvements. More opportunities for us. So now, not just your regular upgrades, but now we can't let these slip as we're moving forward with AI. Here's what I'll be watching. Let me wrap up with what I'll be watching as this framework turns into actual legislation. Here are a few key questions I think matters. How far will Congress go on developer and vendor liability? I'm worried that they're not going to do enough. If you ship an AI feature that goes wrong, how much responsibility do you carry versus the user? Will there be specific rules for high-risk sectors like healthcare, diagnostics, hiring and HR tools, or credit scoring algorithms? How will the government handle transparency? Will users have a right to know when AI is involved in a decision that affects them? And finally, how will small businesses be treated differently from big tech, if at all? Will there be thresholds based on company size or the scale of AI deployment? As those details emerge, I'll bring them back to right here on the show and do my best in translating them into action steps for all of you that you can take, whether you're the MSP managing dozens of clients or just trying to keep your home network and family safe. where I have a mix of lots of users. All of you are different. And this is what I wanted to make sure to kind of, I had a lot of opinions on this. So what I would like to do is now, as I wrap up, we talked about the new national AI legislative framework coming out of the White House, what it's trying to achieve, and how it could shape the AI tools you already use every day. We also looked at some practical steps you can take right now mapping your AI usage, writing a simple AI policy, turning on logs and controls, training your users, and updating your incident response plan. I would love to hear how you're using AI in your environment. Have you rolled out Copilot? Are you experimenting with AI-based help desk and chatbots for clients? Please send me your questions, your stories, your comment on this, and especially horror stories. And I will feature them on a future episode. Remember, email me, miketechshow@gmail.com. Don't forget the miketechshow.com, where you'll find everything. I only got one link for tonight, and that's where the White House posted this, and you can take a look. I assume many of you will be playing this back again, as I covered a lot of stuff here. So I hope you can work it into how you're operating every day, whether it's just for you personally, the company you work for, or your clients, family, friends, everybody. This is impacting everyone. And certainly I'm looking at it more from how it's impacting my business and how it's going to impact my clients, which is what relates to everybody out, most of you out there that are listening to this. And thank you. And, hit me up with the feedback. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe and like the videos at youtube.com/MichaelSmithMTS. Now that spring training's done and everything's on track, hopefully it'll be a more regular schedule, and I will see you back here every Thursday night. Everybody have a great week. I'll see you next week. Same time, same channel. Bye-bye.